Please settle in now. Our service is about to begin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore, a welcoming and inclusive faith community. Thank you for joining us, we who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all in our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, more love, all of us gathered here today. My name is Heather Swenson Brilla, and I am your worship associate this morning. I am a member of this congregation and currently serve on the worship committee. Our worship service today is led by Barbara Miller. Barbara has recently begun to retire as our music director, a position she has held since our first service in 2000. She is a piano teacher, sings with Grace Notes Comfort Singers, and is the chair of our Building and Grounds Committee. If you are new to our congregation, welcome. We would love to connect with you and help you get to know our congregation better. If you are joining us live on Zoom, please visit the chat area of your screen and click the visitor link to connect with our congregation. Video of this service and a printable copy of the sermon will be available on our website and Facebook page later today. If you care to tweet during today's service, you can use the hashtag UUCSJS. If you are hard of hearing, closed captioning of the whole service is available on the YouTube recording that will be posted this afternoon. If you are joining from a computer or smartphone, you are encouraged to type any joys or concerns in the chat box area on your screen. In most platforms, it can be accessed by a chat icon at either the top or bottom of the page, and the chat section will open where you can leave a comment and see what others have said. Please remember that this video will be on the internet, so do not share information best kept private. Welcome to worship.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. It is grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Oh, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and life begins to cease. I shall travel through that shadowed vale with steady joy and peace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see.
Welcome you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here you may find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day. The chalice lighting reading is called A Flame to Light Our Path by Deborah Burrell. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace. Please join us in singing along to our gathering hymn, All of Us Are Loved.
All of us are loved. Each of us is welcome. No one is a stranger. No one is an outcast. No one is alone. Everything we do, when our hearts are grateful and our lives are faithful, makes a better world, one that we can call everybody's home.
Juntos por amor, cada quien precioso. Nadie es un extraño, nadie es invocado, nadie es sin calor. Cada paso fiel, con virtud y gozo, vamos construyendo un mundo mejor, lleno de color, como una flor.
All of us are loved.
Each of us is welcome.
No one is a stranger.
No one is an outcast.
No one is alone.
One is alone.
a better world, one that we can call everybody's home.
During this next musical interlude, we invite you to write your joys and sorrows in the chat portion of your Zoom screen. The icon will either be on the top or bottom of your screen and will allow you to enter text into the panel where others can see it. At the end of the musical interlude, I will read what you would share with the congregation gathered here today. Please remember that a recording of today's service will be available on the internet. So as a reminder, please do not share things that ought not to be posted on the internet for eternity. Each week we gather in this space with things that weigh upon our hearts and minds. Some bring us joy we wish to share with others, and some bring us sorrow that weigh heavy upon our hearts. I will now read what joys and sorrows you would share with this community. Barb Miller shared thanks and big hugs to all who participated in Blue Jeans Saturday Phase 2. So much was accomplished, and we had so much fun. We will do it again soon. Stay tuned. CC wrote, I am grateful for being able to help with cleanup yesterday. The in-person contact with UU members was heartening. We all worked hard to prepare the building for in-person services, etc. Thank you. Dennis wrote, signing of bill to make Juneteenth a national holiday is cause for some optimism. Krista shared, thankful to have such a great dad for almost 18 years. Melissa writes, happy Father's Day to all fathers and children of fathers out there. Deb writes, missing my dad, who died a few years ago at 92. Let us be in the spirit of prayer. Today we celebrate with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America upon electing the first transgender person as bishop in a major Christian church. Reverend Megan Rohr, a pastor at San Francisco's Grace Evangelical Lutheran Church, was elected bishop of the Sierra Pacific Synod at the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We pray for those who are apart from us, whether by distance, time, or conflict unresolved. We pray for those who thirst, whether for water, dignity, or justice. And we pray for our small, blue, fragile planet. Amen.
May I be filled with love.
We will now take a moment to give and receive the morning offering. Since we can't pass around a basket over Zoom, we will have the next best thing, ways to donate online. In the chat area of your Zoom screen, you will find ways to give over the web, give by text, and our postal address if you'd like to give by check. If you are not joining us live on Zoom, you can visit our website, uucsjs.org, and click on the yellow donate button, or text a donation amount to 609-293-4495. No matter how you support us, we appreciate you and your generous heart. After all, your donation is what keeps us going. Each Unitarian Universalist congregation is self-supporting, and 80% of our funds come from you. And no matter how those gifts are offered, they are always most gratefully received.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
While exploring the rabbit hole of hell on the internet, Barbara came across a blog post, The Origin of Hellfire in Christian Teaching. The post argues that Plato created the myth of hell, which was adopted by the Christian Church in the 2nd century and solidified by Augustine around 430 AD. One reader's reply was especially compelling. This is from Just Joe, July 2019. Joe, a lifelong believer, describes himself as coming near the end of his life and now realizes he has been perpetrating a fraud. I'm on the verge of giving up over this. Reading these nitpicky arguments over body, breath, soul, totally mind-numbing. I've argued basically a reformed version of Christianity for most of my long life. Now, coming to where I can see the end coming for me, I am realizing I've been supporting a horrible, horrible teaching, because back in my youth, I didn't listen to the warning of my own conscience. I no longer believe in a God who would knowingly create billions of human lives, lives made in his own image, only to leave their eternity dependent on the bad choice of one human couple. I only know this. I have come to question everything I thought I once believed, and hold myself an uncaring idiot for having propagated such bad ideas for so long. In the name of being faithful, I wasn't honest with myself. I did not listen to that voice within, the one I first heard when I read the story of the slaughter of the Canaanite children, saying, no matter what you've been told, this isn't right.
Good morning. This sermon was inspired by a song of the same name by Amanda Eudice Kessler. You'll hear the entire song later. Here's the first verse. You hear them preach it all over this town, where you will land when you die. Some will go up, and most will go down. So much for the sweet by and by. But I won't be taken in by claims I'm forsaken for sins too outrageous to mention. Social control is not good for your soul, and hell is a human invention. I asked Amanda, why did you write this song? Here is her response. I live in Colorado Springs, the evangelical Vatican of the United States. Focus on the family is here, along with New Life Church and just tons and tons of evangelical congregations, all very right-wing politically. I've been here since 2003. I had heard from friends who were K through 12 teachers that their students reported being threatened that they would be going to hell because they weren't Christian, were the wrong kind of Christian, or sometimes were gay. The evangelical message was very loud and prominent in Colorado Springs, and so I wanted to offer a strong message in opposition to that message. I'm trained as a sociologist. I have a sociology PhD, and one of my areas of focus was the sociology of religion. So that line about social control not being good for one's soul is where my sociological self and my liberal religious spirit meet up. Today, I offer a very broad overview of various religions' claims about hell, and I also share some of the views of you who spoke with me. I'm only touching the surface of the surface on certain major religions: Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. I did not investigate the afterlife beliefs of pre-colonial or indigenous people. I do not intend to be disrespectful of religions in speaking so briefly about their beliefs or past beliefs. I also don't mean to imply that every member of a faith shares the views described here. After all, this month's worship theme is play, and this will be a playful approach. If you're willing, please indicate by raising your hand if you, at any time in your life, believed in a literal hell. So hands up or down right now. Okay, and you can click through the gallery if you'd like to see. Okay, all right. Thank you. First, Christianity. I spoke with many of you who grew up Christian, mostly Catholic, and some Protestants. The by-birth Catholics had the most vivid memories of hell stories from childhood. A place of fire and torment where you would spend eternity if you had committed enough of certain kinds of sins, which are classified as mortal, which is serious, or venial, less serious. Thank you, Victor, for the little catechism on Catholic theology. Victor Main, who attended Catholic school for 12 years, recalls questioning the hell of Catholicism even before he began school at the age of 4. To quote Victor, "I never bought it." Apparently, the attempts of educators and family members to instill fear don't work with some of us. Other congregants recall being told by a priest or minister that a family member or friend who has died was now residing in hell. And that information did not sit well, inspiring them to leave their church. Ron Hutchison, who attended a Baptist church in Nashville as a child, recalls hell being a presence in Southern culture, hearing it preached in church, being told by peers that you could go to hell for this or that act. As an aspiring scientist, by the time he entered college, he had totally dropped the concept of hell, but now wonders how it affected his growing up to have heard so much about hell in his younger years. My brother-in-law, Fred, a lifelong Lutheran, tells me that hell is no longer any part of religious instruction in the evangelical Lutheran Church. And that term evangelical is a little misleading because they are the liberal wing of the Lutheran Church. When I asked him, what about the book of Revelations, where I read, if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he is thrown into the lake of fire. He replied, Revelations doesn't count. Lutheranism is a much more diverse denomination than we may realize. Contemporary Lutherans in the ELCA are focused on God's grace and demonstrating Christ's love in our world. Fred's church in Butler, PA has a very active outreach to the homeless in that community, running a weekly free meal program. And our church having helped run a monthly free meal program, we can only imagine what effort that must take. Now there are two other main branches of Lutheranism, Missouri Synod and Wisconsin Synod, which are more conservative and persist in keeping hell very much alive, as well as condemning what they refer to as homosexuality and not ordaining women. The big surprise for me preparing this sermon was that Plato invented hell as we know it. After the death of his pal Socrates, he grew discouraged. He saw that philosophy alone could not bring about a just society without violence. Plato's invention of hell was a way for citizens to have a new system of rewards and punishments in the hereafter. Thus, it was a coercive device to promote a civil society. In Plato's Republic, he introduced the myth of The warrior was slain in battle, but came back to life on his funeral pyre, and he spoke to the living of what he had seen while he was dead. Basically, he saw a meadow with two openings to heaven and two openings to hell. And if you want to discover why there were two openings, you'll have to read the myth of Check it out in Plato's Republic. Eventually, under the influence of Augustine, around AD 430, the concept of endless conscious torment was brought into general acceptance by the Catholic Church in the Western world. From this time, the Christian Church purported that souls were immortal, and consequently, the lost would experience endless fires of punishment. Now, no sermon about hell would be complete without a mention of purgatory. Some believe that the concept of purgatory began around 1160, when the word is first found as a noun. The tradition of purgatory as a place of transition where souls may go to be cleansed of sins dates back even before the time of Jesus. The worldwide practice of caring for the dead and praying for them contributes to their afterlife purification. This practice appears in early Judaism as well as medieval Chinese Buddhism. Reverend Dawn reminds me that purgatory was used as a sort of medieval church fundraiser, since you could prepay your way out in the form of indulgences. We might check this out to support our budget. If we could come up with some form of, never mind. A few years back, there was a rumor that Pope Francis declared that heaven, hell, and purgatory no longer exist. Apparently, a 93-year-old atheist and journalist friend of the Pope made these claims based on conversations they had had. The Catholic Church quickly stepped in to deny these claims. They affirmed the three destinations of the afterlife, though instead of fire and brimstone, they now believe that hell is considered eternal separation from God. I asked our friend, Ann Bullen, a member of Beth Israel Synagogue, what she thinks about hell. Ann has joined us in her capacity as a member of Mosaic Interfaith Fellowship. And Ann writes, I'll give a very Jewish answer. There is no real agreement. Among Reform and conservative Jews, hell is not on the radar at all. And though there is an afterlife concept, it's not a meaningful tenet of weekly Jewish prayer, and it's rarely discussed. And this is Anne speaking. As someone who grew up Catholic, I've always noticed that Jews pay very little attention to heaven and none to hell at all. The phrase life everlasting is built into funerals and yahrzeit, the anniversary of the Hebrew date of death. The world to come is noted, but we do good deeds to have a life of meaning here versus a ticket to heaven later. In general, Reform and conservative Jews focus on the earthly realm and going all in while we're here. The old school concept of God as judge and jury is still central to the high holidays, and the cleansing of self-denial during Yom Kippur is the precursor to Catholic confession. So that's the end of the quote by Anne, but she directed me to a wonderful sermon by Rabbi Perlin, who is the rabbi at Temple B'nai Shalom in Fairfax, Virginia. And he was giving a sermon called, Is There a Heaven or Hell? He says, I would propose that the question of this sermon, is there a heaven or hell in Judaism, is not a Jewish question. It is a Christian question, posed to Jews or posed about Jews to see how we compare with the Christian view of the afterlife, which contains a clear view of heaven and hell. I mean, with their Christian view of the afterlife. Truth be told, most Jews never think about the question and really don't care. So if we cannot know for sure whether there's a realm beyond this corporeal life, I propose that all discussions of the afterlife tell us more about our values and beliefs in this life. So what does Islam have to say about hell? The Quran contains conflicting testimony about the eternal or not nature of hell. So in one place I read, they will long to leave the fire, but never will they leave therefrom, and theirs will be a lasting torment. But another sacred source says, verily a day will come over hell when there shall not be a single human in it. And the image is given of the arm of God sweeping hell clear of everyone except unbelievers and taking them up into heaven. I asked my friend May Wish, who is Muslim and grew up in Pakistan, what she learned of hell in her religious instruction. Her first impressions of religion and therefore hell were taught by her mother in the home and included the idea that at death there is a reckoning of sins versus merits. May Wish writes, the decision could be based on something as little as plus or minus one sin, which leads to your eternal abode. As a child, I envisioned it like a basketball scoreboard. Apparently, suffering through hellfire is a way to redeem oneself. If you are a Muslim who believes in one God, once you have suffered enough, you can look forward to entering heaven. That's the end of the quote from May Wish. Schools were the primary source of religious instruction for her. In addition, she and her sister had a female tutor who taught them how to pronounce the words in the Quran, but they did not understand Arabic, so it wasn't really religious instruction. That happens primarily in the schools. Some of the most delightful and vivid imagery is used to describe hell. Just look at Dante's Inferno, Milton's Paradise Lost, and Jonathan Edwards' Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And I love this one from Islam. Islam describes a bridge over which everyone must pass after death. Under the bridge is the fiery hell. My understanding is that the righteous people have no problem crossing on their way to Jannah or heaven. But for sinners, it's believed that the bridge will be thinner than hair and sharper than the sharpest sword, impossible to walk on without falling below to arrive at Jahannam or hell. What is hell? Dennis Bone, the Dharma teacher of our UU Sangha, says of the Buddhist view of hell, it depends on what school of Buddhism is practiced in their area of the world and to some degree on the individual. In traditional Buddhist belief, there are 6 realms a person can be born into. The best of these is the God realm, and the worst is the hell realm. Though it gets a little bit more complicated after this. There are 8 cold hells and 8 hot hells called narakas. 3 of the narakas are described by the different sounds the teeth make when chattering, like at, or hoo, or ha. The good news is that you can work out your karma and eventually be released from the hell realms. The bad news is that each realm is millions of years long. In the canonical text, the Buddha talked about being reborn in hell as a result of unwholesome actions. When asked by the Brahmin householders of Sola why it seems that certain individuals after death are in a state of deprivation, residing in an unhappy destination, and some individuals reappear after death in a happy place, the Buddha answered by specifying exactly what actions result in which afterlife, going into great detail. People end up in hell not because of the judgment of a great being, but as the direct result of their accumulated actions. That is their karma. According to Dennis, most modern Buddhists of his acquaintance have little to do with hell, but view it metaphorically. To quote from Buddhism.info, Buddhism does have its own concept of heaven and hell. Unlike other religions, these places are non-permanent mental states of mind. In other words, many Buddhists believe that wise people make their own heaven, while foolish people create their own hell. Hinduism. Here, as in Islam, I found contrasting views. From HinduWebsite.com, Hinduism does not believe in an eternal hell. However, hellish states of mind and woeful births do exist temporarily for those who think and act wrongfully. They consist of fear, hate, jealousy, bigotry, and anger, and are brought about by one's own thoughts, actions, and deeds. But they are not eternal and can be changed by positive karma. Contrast that rather gracious view with the 28 different hells described in the Wikipedia article on Hinduism. Each hell is tailor-made, specific to the individual sinner and their sins. I'm only going to describe one of them. It's kumbhipaka, which means cooked in a pot. A person who cooks beasts and birds alive is cooked alive in boiling oil by the Yamadutas. Yamadutas are the beings who inform the person that they have died. And that in itself is a really funny concept. And then escort them to hell for as many years as there were hairs on the bodies of their animal victims. Honestly, the other Hindu hells are too gruesome to mention here. So to sum it up, traditional Christianity, hell is eternal. Islam, Hinduism, eternal or temporary, according to your source of information. Buddhism, determined by karma, and you can definitely work your way out. Judaism, basically meh. For all faiths, most modern believers see hell symbolically and not as a literal place. Some big questions remain for me. If Plato essentially created the Christian hell, what about the cultures that had hell before the time of Plato? Could hell be an archetype that is part of human psychology? If so, what purpose did it serve for early humans? My conversations about hell showed one very obvious tendency. The younger the person, the less impressed they are by the idea of hell. When I asked Cyrus and Max Safanoff, ages 11 and 13, they replied with a shrug. On a personal note, I've been having nightmares, which I rarely experience while preparing this sermon. If thinking and talking and writing about hell can cause a mature adult this much anxiety, I think it's a very bad idea to share this notion with children. Amen. You know how old songs can come flashing into your consciousness now and then? Last week, the song Teach Your Children Well, written by Graham Nash, paid me a visit. The song is commonly interpreted as advice to different generations to respect and learn from each other. However, the song was inspired by a famous photo of Diane Arbus of a child holding a hand grenade in Central Park. You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well. Your father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the ones they picked, the ones you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry, so just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. And you of tender years can't know the fears that your elders grew by. And so please help them with your youth. They seek the truth before they can die. Children do not come into this world full of fear and shame. In the words of another famous song, they have to be carefully taught. As a survivor of hell teaching, I think it is a very good thing that we have largely given up on hell.
Let's read the words together for Extinguishing the Chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
You hear them preach it all over this town, where you will land when you die. Some will go up and most will go down. So much for the sweet by and by. But I won't be taken by claims I'm forsaken, for sins too outrageous to mention. Not that I'm pure, but of this I am sure. Hell is a human invention. Hell is a human invention. Have you been sleepless with worry and fear, pondering brimstone and flames? Have you felt guilty without knowing why? Have you been laden with shame? Open your eyes and say your goodbyes to history's cruelest contention. Social control's not good for your soul, and hell is a human invention. Hell is a human invention. Hell no, there is no hell, except for the cruelty, the greed, and the fear we create for ourselves. And so we bid farewell to the myth that has served us so poorly that we must dispel. Hell no, there is no hell, except for the cruelty, the greed, and the fear we create for ourselves. And so we bid farewell to the myth that has served us so poorly that we must dispel. You hear them preach it all over the earth. Go now and preach what you know. Humans are beings of infinite worth. No torture is waiting below. Our work lies ahead and it's not when we're dead. So cancel that misapprehension. And violence and war share wealth with the poor, and then you'll be sure love is creation's intention. and hell is a human invention.
We have some announcements this morning. The Music Director Search Committee and the UUC SJS Board are pleased to announce the appointment of Gina Roche Rosenberg as our next Director of Music. Some of you may remember Gina from Greenlight Coffee House or as a popular local performer. Gina finds UU very compatible with her values and is excited to join us when we resume in-person services in September. The men's group will meet this Tuesday, June 22nd at 6:30 p.m. on site at UUC SJS for a reorganization meeting. Contact Marty Quish for more information. Reverend Dawn is back in the office and available for pastoral care appointments Wednesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Please email minister@uucsjs.org to schedule an appointment. Families are welcome to stay on the Zoom call following coffee hour for a kids' snack time. Miss Jess will host a chat for kids who want to share stories, play a game together, or just hang out. Please take the opportunity to keep virtually connected. Events this week: Heartfulness Meditation, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Men's Group on Tuesday. UUA General Assembly, Wednesday through Sunday, virtual and online. Buddhist Sangha on Friday. And visit uucsjs.org/calendar for more information. If you need to schedule a meeting or event, please reach out to the admin at uucsjs.org for use of the Zoom room or to be added to the calendar. Join us next week for worship for shared viewing of Sunday worship from the UUA General Assembly. And remember, there will not be a Sunday service on July 4th. We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting us today. Please click on the visitor link in the chat area to connect with our congregation. We invite all of you today to stay and socialize in our online social time so that we can get to know each other better. Now let us share in a moment of silent reflection to consider today's message and the meaning it has in our life.